Welcome to Leadership Pulse Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Sharma. Today we have with us Puja Sharma, who is the HR and TA head for Flipkart US. Hi, Puja. Take a moment and introduce yourself.
Hi, Jay. Thanks so much for having me today at your podcast. As Jay just briefly mentioned about my intro, I am an HR and TA professional. I've been in this industry for about 15 years and more. And currently I work at Flipkart, where I head the HR, recruiting and operations for the US office.
Thank you. Puja, why don't you tell us a little bit about how has your journey been and how your journey has shaped up?
Sure. So predominantly my experience has been in talent acquisition. It's about 15 plus years. And currently with Flipkart's role, I actually embarked my journey into HR. So I've been always a people person. That's one of my biggest strengths. And when I was starting my career almost 2 decades ago, I figured out that recruiting, talent acquisition fits a role for me. And it's a field where I can hold on to my people skills much more efficiently. And I just started my journey without thinking too much. But I realized that I was just loving the journey throughout. And with the growth in my career that I also saw over the span of years, it just kept me going and pretty happy and fulfilled. One of the things that I also love being in the recruiting space is to be able to help people get their dream jobs. And with so many years of experience now, I also evolved into being a coach, a mentor, and an advisor to the candidates who I was speaking with and hiring. So overall, it's been a very fulfilling journey. And so far, I'm loving my HR role as well.
Thank you, Puja. Thank you for introducing yourself. As we know, this year has been really tough for job seekers in 2023, especially in the tech industry. You being a TA in the recruitment industry, what advice would you give for people who are looking for a job right now?
I totally agree with you. It is not the best market to be in if you are looking for jobs. I would highly recommend to keep in mind 3 main things. Number 1 is patience. Don't lose patience and hope. Have belief and confidence in yourself. Times will change and you will be able to find a job. That's the most important thing which we need to keep with ourselves to help keep our mental sanity in check. The second is network, right? While you are looking for jobs and while the market is not really hot, you could really use this time to build your network with recruiters, with your industry peers. And there are many ways where you can do it. You can connect with them on LinkedIn. You can go for in-person meetups. You can also just connect with them on other social media platforms through your blogs or posts if you are socially active in that regard. And the last thing is honing onto your skills. While you are, looking for a job that fits your dream role, you could probably use this time more efficiently by honing onto your skills. You could join a course. You can take up a course. There are multiple options available these days where you can actually dive deeper into your technical skills, or even, if you are looking for something to add on to your soft skills, you could probably take up a communications course, how to really improve your communication, or how do you really leverage your network. There are tons and tons of resources available these days. If a course doesn't entice you, you could just, spend that time in self-grooming.
Great. That sounds some fantastic tips. Let me just summarize it for our listeners. First, believe in yourself and be patient. Second is network like never before. And third, upskilling yourself. Use this time to get the skills you always wanted to, the things you can become stronger at. So when 2024 comes, you are ready for your dream job. Thank you, Puja. As a TA person, what advice would you give our listeners who are applying for the jobs? How should they distinguish themselves? Because today, as you know, there are far too many applications for any given job. How should one think about it?
That's right. The competition is hard. For one job opening or job post, recruiters really see thousands and thousands of applications. So it's definitely a tough market where there's a lot of talent. Now, how do you really make yourself stand out? I think that's a very important question that you asked, Jay. And being in recruiting industry, let me tell you, what you can do. To be very honest, on paper, it's very hard to distinguish yourself, right? If you are especially in the tech field where you've gathered a few years of experience and you're looking for a software engineer role, pretty much all the resumes look about the same, right? What really distinguishes candidate A from candidate B on a paper is the academics, what they have done, their degrees, and which unis and what projects they have done, and also their current or past experience and things like that. So on paper, it's hard, but what you can do is, here are some of the tips that I will give you, right? One thing that you can really do in making yourself stand out is improve on your communication. And that's going to be the key. The moment you start talking to recruiters to all the way to your interviews, right? And even to offer negotiations and things like that. Communication is very, very important. So you could stand out by articulating your thoughts more clearly, by following the STAR method approach when you are interviewing, by having a structured way of talking to recruiters, or even to during your interviews. On the paper with the resume, if you have done extracurricular activities, or if you've won some awards or something, accolades, you could probably write a brief cover for your resume. Keep in mind, it should be very, very precise and very short, just like one short paragraph. But you could use that to make yourself stand out and talk about your achievements.
Great. You talked a lot about communication, so I think you gave some valid tips as well, focusing on how you talk, how do you articulate things, and form, using frameworks like STAR framework when you are preparing your responses. Great. And I think there is also some scientific data backing it up. I did a LinkedIn post on this very recently, where 85% of your career growth actually depends on one skill and one skill only, that is communication. So Puja, you talked a lot about, resume, different skills, extracurricular activities. So in your experience, you have, looked at thousands of candidates and probably hired hundreds, if not thousands. What are the things you look at a resume? Like, how do you differentiate between a good resume versus bad resume?
See, for a recruiter, they really look at the job and they want to find the best fit for their job that they're hiring for. So keeping in mind the job that the recruiter is looking for, they will be shortlisting the resumes based on the experience required, the skills required. Again, this is coming from the job posting. So when you are applying as an applicant, you really have to be careful that you're applying to the right job post. The moment if you just randomly and blindly apply to other jobs, you are going to be rejected from the jobs that doesn't fit your role and skill set that well. For example, I'm an HR person. If I am, let's just say that I'm in desperate need of applying for a job, and I just apply for a job just to maximize my chances of getting a chance to speak with a recruiter, right? And I actually end up applying to admin and HR, of course, recruiting, and project manager or software engineer. Now, clearly, out of all of these roles, software engineer is something which is not going to fit my resume. Now, if I've applied to all these roles in one company, if I get rejected from a software engineer role, which of course I ended up applying blindly, I'm going to show up as a rejected candidate in the system for the recruiter, right? Not that the recruiters will be really, looking at that, okay, I'm an HR person, I've applied to software engineer, and they understand that it's definitely not a fit. But keep in mind, standing as a rejected candidate in one of the profile in the system, the recruiters are going to pay attention to the other candidates who have thought about the job and applied rightfully. So there you go, right? I've lost my chance in getting shortlisted in the first go. I might be picked up in the second batch, or if I'm lucky, later on. But you do want to be very careful when you're applying for a job, and you want to maximize your opportunity in the first go itself. So I think that's very, very important. Make sure that you're applying to a job which fits your skill set more closely And also that gives you an opportunity to grow and learn. I'm sure you all will be having your own career goals. So reading through a job post and applying for it should be a thoughtful decision, not a quick one.
Thank you. I think you shared interesting aspects about being thoughtful of what jobs you apply to and not blindly applying. I have two follow-up questions. One is, I think there is also this saying goes around that the recruiter typically takes about 7 seconds to decide yay or nay on a resume. Is that true? If yes, like what do you look at in those 7 seconds?
I don't know where you're getting this data from. I've been in recruiting industry for a very long time. I haven't heard about the 7-second rule. But yes, it does take a quick time for recruiters to yay or nay on an applicant. First, for what again, it's who fits the job most closely is the one who's going to get shortlisted in the first go. So you really have to keep in mind some of the things that recruiters will be paying attention to. And, I'll tell you what are these things. Probably to summarize, it would be 4 or 5 things. The first is the role, right? The title of the role. The second would be the years of experience. It should match closely. It should be more. The candidate should have either the same or the more number of years of experience to the job that you're applying for, right? If you have any less experience, you are most likely to be rejected. The second is the academics, the academic qualification needed, right? Do you have, for a software engineer role, do you have the engineering degree? What has been your major in undergrad and things like that? So the third is the skill set required. The job post would have the technical languages that are required to do a job, right? Like C++, Python, Java, and things like that. And if you don't have those languages or that your experience in those languages, you're going to get rejected. So make sure that your resume shows enough experience in that tech stack that the job is looking for. And the last thing is description about your projects, your current experience. So if you are a person who has some work experience, make sure that it also resonates and sounds closer to the job that you're applying for. Again, it is a combination of the title, the tech stack, the technologies, and of course the details of your project. If you are a person from, let's say, from a finance domain, right? You worked in a finance company or a software engineer, and you are applying to, let's say, a tech consulting company, right? So clearly the domain change is here. So if you're looking at such a job, just make sure that you have the other grounds covered, which I just mentioned, the years of experience, the skill set, and the academic qualification required.
Great. I think you also kind of put a lot of emphasis on how do you showcase your skills in your projects and resume and whatnot. I would want to remind our listeners here, do not fake stuff in there. Try to get real experiences. If you don't have experience at your current job, join a lot of open source projects available on GitHub and other places. Build your passion projects and gain skills that way. Don't lie on the resumes. The second question I have for you, Puja, on the same lines is, you talked about you as an HR person, if you apply to a software engineer role, you probably will get rejected. How should people who are trying to pivot their careers from one, discipline to another, how should they go about it?
And I think that's a great question. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would want to, repivot in their career at some point in time. So it's one thing that you really need to keep in mind when you are doing this is to be prepared, which is to be able to build up the skills for the career transition, right? If let's just take the example that I just mentioned, if I want to become a software engineer and I do not have any prior experience, I want to make sure that my resume talks about my skill building, that I have spent enough time and done enough courses to help me get the knowledge of technology, the tech domain, right? That shows the readiness and the preparedness of the candidate. So make sure that you are backed up by this readiness, which you are able to show it on resume to the recruiter or to the hiring manager. If you are able to pick up any projects that you have successfully executed, That's a great win as well, great addition, I would say. And rest everything, once you get shortlisted, rest everything is going to be your storytelling and your story building when you talk with the recruiters and hiring managers. And this is where the communication is going to come to be your biggest help.
Fantastic, fantastic. Let's move on to networking. I think we talked a lot about resume, how to gain skills, and what recruiters look for. You also talked about earlier in the podcast about networking. So, what are some tips of do's and not things don't not to do when it comes to networking?
Sure, networking is key these days. Any professional, student, and professional from entry level to even senior leadership, right? Networking is very, very important at every level of your professional journey and experience. Some of the do's are connect with people, your industry peers, the recruiters, and use your social media presence. If it's LinkedIn or a place where you are participating in, open forums or writing blog or post, make sure that you are actively involved there. Have a legitimate and a solid and a filled LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is the first and the most known and most commonly used social media platform by anyone who's hiring or looking to fill a job, recruiters or hiring managers. So make sure that you have a pretty good standing LinkedIn profile. And then that's, and again, a great start to connect with the recruiters. You can target the companies where you want to get into, and then hence, send out the connection request and slowly start building your network. So talking with people, building your social media platform, LinkedIn profile, very importantly. And another thing which you can maximize is the in-person meetups. You can participate into the in-person networking events. A lot of these companies and conferences as well, they have the post-event networking events, maybe in the form of interviewing or happy hour or anything like that, right? So you could probably search up what are the meetups that are happening locally, and you can go there and connect with the like-minded community. The don'ts is don't overdo on any of this. Very, very important. So whatever you're doing, you got to have a balance in that. You can't really overdo on it. And what does overdoing mean? If you are connecting with somebody and if you are just bombarding them after the connection request is accepted with your messages that you want their help in landing you for a job or anything, and you're just continuously messaging them without even doing your own preparation and things like that. Now that's not really going to work in your favor. It also is very true with the recruiters too. You can actually end up annoying them, and they will probably end up banning you from their list of candidates. So just don't overdo on any of that. For the in-person meetups, I think it's very hard to overdo on any of that. What you can really do is just behave responsibly. And again, use your effective communication in talking to your peers when you are going in person.
Great. And I'll like to add a couple of things to this. Network intentionally and focus on adding value to the people first, like show your genuine interest. Don't reach out blindly asking for favors, because you have to first build a connection before you ask for a favor. I will also recommend a book. The book is called as Dig Your Well Before You Are Thirsty. And as the name goes, essentially says, network proactively, intentionally, and don't start networking when you actually need help from the network. Cool, Puja. This is awesome. Shifting gears a little bit, I also found out that you are a life coach and a career coach, and you have an Instagram channel. So tell us a little bit more about how did you arrive at that as your calling, and where can our audience find you?
Sure. And I'm so glad that you asked me this. So as I was saying in the beginning of our interview, that one of my strongest strengths is connecting with people and communication as well. So over the years of my vast recruiting experience, I eventually evolved into being a career coach, a guide, a mentor, an advisor to a lot of my candidates, to my hiring managers. There have been numerous instances where I have actually talked to the candidates and guided them, advised them on whether they should pick up my offer or not. And there have been times when I've actually told the candidates, hey, this is not going to work out for you. And I've actually, advised them to make the right decision, even if it, meant for me to not to be able to fill my role. Eventually, it's all about, landing the right person at the right place, right? So being a coach in my professional journey, I was at a transition point in my life as well, where I was thinking, is there anything more that I can do to help people? And off the camera, I've also been, in a very informal way, an advisor to a lot of my friends. So I figured out to connect the dots and offer these coaching and advising services to everyone and anyone. And hence the idea of life coach came in my mind. I have an Instagram page, which I've just started a couple of months ago. It goes by Puja Inspires. And Jay could share the link of my Insta page on that, where I talk about how to stay positive, how to maneuver through challenges and issues in life. How do you build friendships? How do you beat the stress and take care of your mental health? Numerous topics that I pick and talk about. I also start series of interesting conversations where I pick up a topic and then I have series of videos talking on the same. My idea behind this Insta page is to be able to connect with more and more people and to be able to make everyone stay positive and, of course, to help them if they come to me with any questions and queries.
Great. Thank you. And for the audience, I will link Pooja's LinkedIn as well as her Instagram page in the description. Follow her. She posts a lot of great content on Instagram. It has helped me, and I'm sure it will help you as well. So, Pooja, going back to your early childhood, knowing what you know now, like what advice would you give a 20-year-old Pooja now?
You said childhood. I was actually going way earlier than that. Okay. Well, a 20-year-old is not a child. Let's just start with that, right? You're almost an adult, 21. So, but yeah, if I have to reflect back and think about what could I have done differently, I probably could have been more diligent in picking and choosing my career. The initial years when I started my job, right, I was pretty much everywhere. I had done many different jobs, very different domains, in very different domains. I worked in a call center. Back in India, I was a project manager at a nonprofit. And then within the call center, I've worked at 2 or 3 different places and things like that. So, and then I was a financial consultant using SAP technology at some point in time. So I would really tell my younger self to be more serious about my career and to think about what job I'm picking and why am I picking it, and is it going to help me build my long-term career. I think what I did was just pick up these momentary short-term jobs, just because I didn't really think seriously. But clearly, I don't count them in my professional experience at all. So those early years are what is something which, I just ended up doing some job, but I can't really talk about them because I haven't really learned much value from them, right? So it's very important that you spend your early years in thinking about the direction that you want to give yourself in your life. Even if it means, spending some time with you and just taking a break, do that. But just don't jump without thinking into any offer, any job, any role that you get.
Wow, such a diverse set of experiences you have, from a call center to a project manager in a nonprofit to financial consultant to now TA and HR. Like, how did you arrive at TA and HR? Like, what was your calling there?
Calling has always been being in the people business, right? Connecting with people. So TA happened to me organically, and I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to build my career in talent acquisition. I've worked with many companies, startups to large corporates, and also internationally as well. So TA helped me get the transition into the HR role as well. And this is the role at Flipkart, which actually gave me the opportunity to leverage and also embark my journey as being an HR person. where I'm more deeply involved into deriving people strategies and running, the people business. So I think the underlying, the foundation or the driving factor was always there. It just took me some time to find my right path, but I wasn't really off the tracks completely. So I think that was a good thing. It just took me some time, but I finally was able to land it into the right spot and place. So focus on your strengths, right? Aligning or having a job that aligns well with your strengths. I think that's a great start. And then, of course, you can add up onto your skills. And with the years of experience, you become a mature professional, you learn more, and then you have more stories to talk about and things like that. And that's exactly what worked for me. So HR is something which I just love, and TA is something which is always close to my heart.
Great. I think the key learning here is being adaptable and building your career around your strengths. I love it. Puja, we're coming closer to the end, so I have two final questions for you. The first question is, if time and resources were not a constraint, what would Puja do?
Okay. If time and resources, okay, that's a great question. Well, if resources were not a constraint, I would have loved to give it back to the society. Given my personal situation and also the family situation right now, it needs me to put my income to the needs of the family and things around that. But I would really love to help people, give it back to the society. And even time-wise, right? If I had more time, I would love to pick up the volunteering opportunities and really put myself out there to help people. One of the things which I really want to do, and I hope that in future I would be able to do it, is to really help poor kids. In India, growing up, I have seen so many little kids begging on the streets, which I think still happens in India. And I really want to be able to help them, starting from the basic necessity of providing education. So I hope that one day I'd be able to do this and fulfill my dream of helping these little kids get educated and eventually come out of poverty. But this is a topic which is very, very close to my heart.
Great, Puja. I think we'll love to talk about this some other time, but such a profound thought. Okay, one last question for you. What is one final thought that you would want to leave our audience with?
It has been a great conversation up until now. I hope that your audience can take away multiple points from our discussion today. But one of the most important thing is believe in yourself, right? That is, I think, is the most important thing. If you will doubt yourself, you will just end up stressing and worrying about things and eventually losing it all as well. So believing in yourself helps you stay focused and composed. And I think that is the most important thing. We all lose the significance of, how important it is to be able to, believing in ourselves, right? Being confident about ourselves. This is a very common problem in women, for sure. I'm sure, a lot of men are also facing it. But I think that's something which can be a good start. It's something, if there's a takeaway that you can take it from today's interview, start doing that, start believing in yourself more, put your thoughts and ideas into execution, because remember, you can do it.
Thank you, Puja. Thank you. Such an important topic. Self-belief is crucial for your longer-term career success. It all starts with you. Thank you.